everyone! Welcome to Star Trek Club. It's our second episode. I'm Captain Logan. Behind me is Brandon Grimm.
Hello.
And across the way, doing the quarantine thing, is Adam Meredith.
Hello.
My wife and Jason are also in the comments tonight. They're not on screen with us because I figured 5 would be kind of too many people trying to talk over each other. But you'll see both of them here and there on this show. If you missed our pilot, which we did the other day on a complete whim. Like, we've been talking about, Adam and I have been talking about doing the show for a while. We had no intention on starting it yet. We were going to wait until after we did the Beyond commentary. I just put Beyond on the wheel. When we hit it, we'll go ahead and do it, is what I'm thinking, because it's not going to be any longer than, the 2 episodes we're usually going to do. But anyway, so Adam and I have been doing this kind of on our own anyway on Mondays. We've just been getting together, picking a couple episodes and watching them, and we found that we were talking through the whole episode anyway, and we figured they're making for good commentaries that we're not recording. No one's ever going to hear this, so why don't we start our show now? And so we went ahead and did that last week. It went really well. I see lots of folks in the comments already, so thanks a bunch for being here. We are so excited about this. We're going to bring you guys something akin to the old Star Trek Club that I used to host for 15 years that we stopped a few years ago. And this is going to be a streamlined version. It's not going to be exactly what that club was. We didn't do 2 episodes in that club. We always just did 1. But we also didn't talk through the whole thing. So, this is going to be a little bit different.
We also had a lot of stuff we did before the episode.
Yes, and we're going to do a little bit of that too. And so before we get to that, because we're going to do a little bit of trivia here in a minute, before we get to that though, I just want to mention how the episode watching is going to go. As you notice in the title, I didn't put in the names of the episodes because we don't know what we're watching yet. We're going to do this like Treknado, where we put a bunch of episodes on a board.
The name of it.
On a wheel, and each show we're going to do 2 episodes on a wheel. Sometimes we'll have 2-parters that will be either the whole show or we'll roll over to the next show. It'll be fun when we have an actual cliffhanger on the show. I'm sure that'll happen some. And anyway, I'm letting the audience decide those, and also we're putting some things on that wheel too. So we have about 22, 23 episodes on the wheel right now. Each of us picked one. I put out a call the other day just publicly to the audience for those, and what I'm going to do to keep adding things to the wheel, and we'll probably occasionally fill in some things too, just so that we get some episodes that we really want to watch on there, and also so that some more obscure things happen. I think occasionally I might just pick something random like we used to. Adam, I still have that box of all the random episodes. I don't know where it is, but I might start, when I find it, I might just start pulling stuff out of that and put that on the wheel. But anyway, I wanted to let everybody know that if you want to get something on the wheel, we're going to let folks do that by Super Chat, and you don't have to just put the thing on, or the episode in a Super Chat. If you leave a Super Chat during Star Trek Club, the first Super Chat you leave, we will let you put an episode on the wheel. So talk about anything you want to in the Super Chat, but then we'll also let you pick an episode. And you can either make that part of your Super Chat, or you can just give me that later, but that will entitle you to put one on the board, and we can take those up to 100 episodes, because that's how many I'm able to put on the digital wheel that I'm using. I'm going to block Adam's face for a second, but this is the wheel, and look, Brandon, it's your episode. It's Year of Hell.
Yes.
That's not what we're necessarily watching tonight,
No.
but that's what it landed on when I was playing with that earlier. So anyway, that's how we're going to do the episode picks. I'm very excited about it. It's going to be kind of regular off-the-cuff commentaries, and we're going to hear from you guys during the show as well. So before we get to some episodes, I want to do an old standard trivia game that Brandon and Jason and I and Adam, Sam, and Sarah, we all still play quite a bit. We're going to do a variation basically on 20 questions called Standard Replicator, or as we've shortened it to Standard Replicator. It's actually, is it larger than a Standard Replicator was always the name of the game, and it's very simple. It's just what it sounds like. I'm going to go around to Brandon and Adam, and they're going to ask me questions about the thing that I am thinking of that has something to do with Star Trek, Brandon.
Oh my God. Is it really?
We're also going to go to you guys for a turn as well. So the first question I see that is relevant after, I will let Adam start. So after Brandon's turn, we'll go to the audience and we'll get a question from you guys as well. And then at any point, if you guys think you know what it is, put it in. And I imagine imagine these will go faster than normal because we've got so many more people paying attention to the questions. So guys, let me look at...
the audience still just have 2 guesses before they're out?
No, we'll let them just keep throwing guesses out. That's fine. We'll just see how fast we can get it. So I am thinking of something that has to do with Star Trek. I'm not going to give you any... I'm not going to give you any more clues than that. It's just there's something in my head. It has to do with Star Trek. We're going to start with Adam, and just ask me some questions to try to narrow it down, and let's see how quickly we can figure it out. And like I said, I'm going to go to the audience after Brandon's turn, so you guys kind of run with me so that we don't have a lot of dead air, if you would. Adam, why don't you start, man?
Well, I'll start with the old one that we always start with. Is it alive?
It is alive. Brandon?
Is it a member of the Federation?
It is not a member of the Federation. So we'll go now to the audience. Somebody ask a relevant question to help narrow it down. Please don't do a guess yet, because you don't have enough for that. But we know that it is alive, and we know that it is not a member of the Federation. Jason wants to know if it dies, which is a fantastic question.
Jason comes up with a lot of great questions.
It indeed does die. Yes, it does.
Wow.
Adam.
So it dies. It was alive.
Is it alive? Well, at one time. Yes, indeed.
Not a member of the Federation. Let me think.
Jason just wrote, cool, it dies.
Was this in the Next Generation?
No, not Next Generation.
Ooh, not Next Generation. Excuse me. Is it in Deep Space Nine?
It is not in Deep Space Nine. David asked a question that we've already kind of gotten past. Wanderer, is it a carbon-based life form? Yes, indeed, it is a carbon-based life form.
Oh, so it's not the Horda. The Horda didn't die, so I guess...
and it's not the crystalline entity,
that out too.
That was TNG anyway.
So it's a carbon-based life form, dead, not in the Federation, not in Next Generation, not in Deep Space Nine. Is it in the original series?
Not TOS.
Is it Voyager?
It is not Voyager. Jason also asked that. And before we go any further, so waiting for an audience question, let me also mention, this goes without saying for us, but may not for other people, this club is going to be primarily not New Trek. So when we do stuff like Standard Replicator, we're talking TOS to Enterprise and all the movies. I'm cool with movie stuff even through Beyond, but generally speaking, we're not really counting New Trek because we just have a difficult time, all of us. Well, Brandon hasn't watched a lot of it, but even seeing that as canon, and it really overly complicates things and makes trivia a little bit less fun. So
what you're telling me, it's not mere Gabriel Lorca.
No, it is not. It is not mere Gabriel Lorca. Blue Hawk film, does it have multiple appearances? No, it does not. Good question. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, that's gonna be something real obscure.
It's not. It's not obscure. Everyone in this room knows it, including Adam, who's not in this room.
Is it in the movies?
It is in the movies, yes, indeed.
Yeah. Let's see. It's not a Federation member. Is it a species?
No, it is not a species. Jason just wrote, does it? So I'll wait on the audience for just a minute and see if anybody wants to throw a question, and if I don't hear something in a couple of seconds. Nicholas's guess is Khan and is not Khan. Wonder, was it at one point extinct? No, that's a real specific question, and I'm not sure what you're getting at. Adam!
Is it a Klingon?
It is a Klingon.
Is it Commander Krug?
It is not Krug.
Oh.
Good guess. But you're narrowing it way down. I don't think it'll get back to you, but maybe. Brandon?
Is it General Chang?
It is General Chang, sir. That's who we're looking for. Yes, indeed. All right, so Brandon's got one. Good job. And before anybody in the comments got a chance to do it, Solar Dragon also thought it was Krug because he asked if it got stabbed to death. Or is it, oh, no. He was saying, is it Kirk's son who gets stabbed to death by a Klingon? Okay, but he was all around it. He was all around crew. Okay, let's do one more, and, I'll think of it again just to get things rolling here. Okay, I have something else in my head. It has to do with Star Trek, and we will begin with Brandon because he got that last question right. Brandon?
Okay, here's a classic that was invented by Jason. Is it bigger than Worf?
It is not bigger than Worf. And
Jason invented that.
we'll go ahead and let Adam do a question now as we're waiting on the audience. Go ahead, Adam. We'll let the audience go again after Brandon, since we started with Brandon this time.
It's not bigger than Worf. Is it alive?
It is not alive.
Is
it
it
alive?
It is not alive.
Okay.
Is it a piece of technology?
It is a piece of technology. Let's see if the audience has a question. So it's not alive, and it is a piece of technology, audience. Oh, Wanderer at some point thought it was Gracie the Whale. Solar Dragon just throws in a guess. It is not a phaser. David, is it a piece of Federation technology? No, it's not.
Ooh.
Was this in the original series?
And this is not in TOS, no.
Was this piece of technology once thought to hold magical or mystical powers?
No. Good question. Solar Dragon also throws in another guess and asks if it's a batleth. It is not a batleth. Jason wants to know if it's on a Borg ship. No, not on a Borg ship. At any point.
The
Was this in the Next Generation?
This does appear in TNG, yes indeed.
Is it seen more than once?
Yes. Wanderer, does it transport a thing from one place to another? It does not do that.
Is this thing unique? Is there only one of these?
No. There are more than one.
Are they found on a starship?
There is at least one appearance where I'm pretty sure we do see one on a starship.
Okay.
That's the answer to that question. Blue Hawk Film, is it important to the plot?
Does that mean B story?
Not important. I mean, we all remember it, but it's not like a MacGuffin or anything. I'll give you that, Adam.
Those little pyramid things that appear on the table in 10 Forward. I have no idea what they are.
David, it is not a
centerpiece.
It is not a cloaking device. Adam.
Not important to the plot.
Cloaking devices are always important to the plot when they come up.
Let me think here. It's not Federation, right?
It is not Federation.
Okay. Is this a technology that's like unique to or identified with a specific species?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you have a guess?
I don't have a guess.
Okay,
yet.
go ahead, Brandon.
Is this technology linked to the Binars?
Not the Binars. Solar Dragon. Hi, David Dilks. Solar Dragon asks if it causes harm. It does indeed cause harm.
Causes harm.
As soon as we're done with this round, we'll watch our first episode, guys.
Let me think here. Is this something associated with the Cardassians?
This is not Cardassian technology, no.
Okay.
Is it... Can you hold it in one hand?
You can hold it in one hand, Brandon. Do you have a guess?
Not yet.
Blue Hawk Film, does it require power in order to work? We're never told that, but the answer to that question must be yes. Because of what it does, it must have a power source of some kind.
Wait.
I just saw a light bulb. It's not your turn yet, Brandon.
No. Did that really
Does this thing appear innocuous when we first see it?
No, definitely not innocuous.
Okay.
It's not that.
Solar Dragon, yes or no questions, buddy?
I thought you had one, Brandon.
I did. I did.
We just ruined it. We just ruined it. Innocuous screwed him up, it looks like. Or, excuse me, not innocuous.
Not innocuous.
Does do we see this on the bridge?
No, I don't believe that ever happens. Solar Dragon, is it early TNG? It is. And then that's an important clue.
Early TNG.
Early as in seasons 1 through 3, yes.
Okay.
You guys are throwing us great questions.
I think is it?
Oh, he's got it. He maybe has it.
Is it a Ferengi thing?
It is a Ferengi thing.
Is it the whip thing?
It is a Ferengi lightning whip. Yes,
I ruled
that's what we're looking for.
Rounds ago.
Why?
Because I didn't remember ever seeing it on the ship.
Enterprise. There's a first season Enterprise episode with Ferengi, and one of them cracks on a lightning whip. That's the only instance I can think of where that shows up on a ship, but it does indeed. And I'm pretty sure those are the only 2 appearances of it, except for in action figure form.
The action figure, and the action figures were just action figures from Playmates that they then made a pipe cleaner whip out of or whatever.
It's hilarious. But if they hadn't done that, it would have been like purple or orange or something, right? What was that, Marauder Mo? Marauder Mo, yeah.
Figure. You gave them away.
I used to have like the Marauder. I think Playmates made the Marauder, and you could get that. I had that, and I had also.
Did they make one that big? I know they had a Micro Machines one.
No, there was one at least this big, and I also had a larger Warbird too.
Well, yeah, sure.
Those were so cool.
They made the Warbirds.
I remember the little inner space Polly Pocket type things that like you'd open it up and it'd be.
And they had a board head. I have that, and they did heads too. They had like a Worf head, or just a generic Klingon,
and that was like the High Council. And then the Borg head was Descent.
Right, and then I also have the Enterprise D that folds out and has Picard's ready room, and that was the best one. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, guys, we're gonna go ahead and move on now to an episode. We don't know what we're watching yet. We haven't narrowed down to like 22, 23, whatever's on the wheel. So I'm gonna go ahead and block Adam's head again and show you guys the wheel. Actually, do I have this set up where I can just do?
Wheel.
I can do that. Okay.
Star Trek.
All right, folks. Here we go. There's an ad for Billions on Showtime. They're not paying me for that. Okay. We're going to spin the wheel. We're going to find out what we're watching today for our first impromptu commentary of the evening. Here we go. Welcome to Star Trek Club. Here's our first episode. Here we go. And it is Times Arrow. We got to do a 2-parter.
Times Arrow, 2-parter.
Yeah, wild.
I almost suggested Times Arrow when I came up with Year of Hell. I was thinking.
Well, and the other day you were talking about Times Arrow.
Yeah.
And how much you like it for some undiscernible reason.
I don't mind Times Arrow.
It's not terrible, but it's not good. Okay, so a 2-parter right away. That's really surprising. Okay. So we're going to watch the first part, and then we're going to break that up with a discussion topic. So we'll take a little break after the first part. Let me just find it real quick. And everybody else do the same, of course. Times Arrow is the cliffhanger. Does anybody remember between which seasons?
Season 5.
Season 5 and 6, that's right.
Yeah. And now I've got to get over to it. Where's I hear this?
So I'll pull it up on Netflix. If you have Netflix,
the next phase and one after Vash.
If anybody needs time to go run and get discs or something, let me know. I assume most of us are using Netflix.
I remember when Next Gen was still on TV, and from when I can remember watching it, and just loving every moment of the ship coming in and the cast on this, the names of the cast on the screen and that theme song and just waiting for what was going to happen next.
So, Jason, TNG, Season 5. Last episode of Season 5 is the cliffhanger into 5 and 6. Jason, you don't remember Time Zero? This is the one with 400-year-old Data's head.
Yeah, and Mark Twain.
Boom.
Cap, do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah, it wasn't in those circumstances whatsoever. Yeah, but Brandon, if you don't go back in time, we may never meet.
We may never meet.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get started here in a minute. If you want to be the person that replaces this episode on the wheel, all you gotta do is send a minimal super chat, and if we don't get one of those during the episode, I'm gonna let Adam pick it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna
Do you want to let Adam pick it?
I'm gonna let Adam get it on.
Real crazy.
Get something on the wheel. You're just gonna go nuts.
I'm gonna go nuts. Maybe I'll just maybe. Yeah, it'll be this is a veiled threat.
Come on.
You don't.
Let's get
put
nuts.
The super chat. I'm gonna put Carpenter Street up on the wheel.
No!
Okay,
Dude,
so-
Jason and I just watched through season 3 and I intentionally skipped Carpenter Street. I didn't make him watch
You're
it.
gonna get your comeuppance.
Now I'm gonna have to sit through that. Great! Okay. It's showing I'm having not good stream health, so hopefully everybody can still see and hear us and we're doing okay. David, thanks so much for the super chat. You can change your response because I actually already put Conundrum on the wheel because you asked for that yesterday, and I took a bunch of open requests to get us started. So thanks so much for that, but pick something different because you already picked that. And I will put the wheel back up here briefly so that you can see some of the things on the wheel. Yeah. Okay, is everybody about ready to get started? Oh, I lost Adam. There he is. All right, folks, first part of Time's Arrow. Everybody, please press play. Make sure you're at timestamp 0 right now.
Jay, what would you do if I put that episode where Molly falls into the time hole up on the wheel?
I'd probably drop you from the call. No, I'd leave you in because I don't want to have to talk about that. So if I have to watch it, I'd leave you in so that you could do all the talking. I would just be completely silent and ignore you and refuse to talk to you. That's what would happen. I hate it so much. This is one of those really fun, provocative teasers that doesn't pay off as well as it could. I mean, I guess at least there's like... I don't even want to say consequences. I guess it at least leads to something, you know, like
Yeah.
it's not a super teasy kind of teaser. Like, I mean, teasy in a bad way, you know.
Looking at Adam.
Oh. Your mom's Facebook has triolic waves.
Oh boy.
Trialic waves.
Do we ever hear about trialic waves again?
Probably not.
Ever.
Picard responded
These
like,
aliens-
storage compartments? Storage compartments? Sorry, what?
So these aliens and their weird staff. This is the weirdest thing. Why does it look like a snake?
I don't know. And their outfits are silly, but they're not the worst you've ever seen. They're at least
they
not
call it a
skin
weird
tight,
name,
so
too.
that's good.
Instead of saying a snake, they say something else. Like the main cast does. And I'm like, just call it a snake, guys.
One of the problems with this episode is that it has a mostly unseen, not compelling villain.
Yeah.
We do so many, and I don't mean that we need like super villains in Star Trek. Obviously, that's like we get real sick of that in movies. But you know, you'll have this threat that just doesn't seem all that threatening because it's basically just like, you know, energy or like aliens that hardly ever present themselves, or I don't know. It's kind of dull.
Yeah.
Busted Sim says, not a snake, an Iridian.
That's it. That's what they call it. Yeah. What the heck is that? That's Iridian.
TH1, there is indeed time travel in this episode. This is also going to give us a really unsatisfying answer to how Picard and Guinan met.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's, I don't know, it's weird, right? Because, like, Picard has to remember, like a meeting that they first had in his lifetime, so I guess she was, like, trying to protect the timeline and, like, you know, temporal prime directive and not tell him. I guess that's what happened. So we still don't really know what they're talking about, you know, way early on when we first see her.
I kind of lost you.
You lost me? What's the matter? I guess Adam can't hear me for some reason.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I don't know why that keeps happening when we play episodes, Adam.
I don't know.
It seems like on a weekly basis we have this.
Yeah.
That ship
Let me turn
is
this down a
just
little
so
bit.
good
Maybe that's the
looking.
problem.
It's gotta be, because it always happens when we start an episode, and you can't hear mine on my side, so there's no way that it's on my end. Adam, can you hear me?
That's better now. Yeah, I got you better. So the guy that plays Samuel Clemens in this episode is the guy that played Deep Throat on the X-Files.
Oh, wow, that is who that is! Yeah! He's great.
So that's a cool reveal of Data's head behind Data's head.
That
That
was a choice.
Good, but it doesn't really look like him.
It does not. No, and
it could be way worse though.
Yes, it could.
So they reused this head of Data's in, like, I don't know what it is, like Dark Frontier or something like that on Voyager, when the Borg Queen's got like severed drone heads on the table and she's like pulling them apart to try to get, like, you know, their whatever it's called, the thing in the cortical node or whatever, you know.
David just added yesterday's Enterprise to the wheel.
That's
Cool. That was a cool shot that they picked to go around, the three of them standing around this pedestal.
They're getting real artsy-fartsy in this scene. Well, that's Les Landau. I guess he does stuff like that. How many did he direct? Quite a few, right?
I think. I'm not certain exactly.
Busted Sim, my most memorable line from this episode was care to help a 49er. Yeah, and that's a real TOS type scene too, isn't it?
Oh, 49. Oh yeah, and Jack London's in this too.
Mm-hmm.
Microcentrum cell membrane.
You just gave away the Jack London reveal.
Oh, I did. Oh, I
It's a reveal, remember?
I'm sorry, I spoiled the 30.
Well, there's Jack London in this episode. We won't tell you who it is, but it'll be obvious real fast. Wonder we also get Ducat pretending he's Colonel Sanders. That's true. Yes. And you know,
in the poker game,
he does not get enough credit for the sheer number of roles he plays in Star Trek. Because we always talk about people like Jeffrey Combs.
Unidentifiable too, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like some of that stuff we don't even notice.
We always talk about Combs as being the guy who's played the most parts, but that can't be true. Maybe the most, like, actual guest stars where he matters and gets, like, a real guest star credit. But Elamo is in a bunch of episodes.
The person that played the most of any person on Star Trek is the guy that plays Forrest on Enterprise.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time he finally got a recurring role, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It was, after having all those minor characters.
Solar Dragon Q, who is not currently on the list. Blue Hawk Film, by the way, I'm loving that anything like Star Trek Club content of any kind is back. I especially miss those old trivia rounds. Sarah would often trounce those in entertaining fashion. Yeah, she's pretty good. And you'll see Sarah some on this show. We just didn't want to have more than 3 hosts at one time, because that's a lot of people talking over each other when we're trying to do a commentary.
Yeah.
But she's upstairs watching right now. Maybe we'll hear from her at some point. Jason keeps popping in. Busted Sim, Vaughn Armstrong is the most...
Vaughn
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. Yep. Oh, he goes, oops, swooped by Adam. Yeah, he was trying to... I forgot. I knew that at one time. I totally forgot about that. Alemo, I was surprised to find, I think I mentioned this maybe on a show a couple weeks ago, was the first Romulan with a speaking role in TNG. So you see two Romulans when you first see Romulans in the show in the final episode of Season 1, The Neutral Zone. And Alemo is the guy on the left on the view screen.
He's the one that talks.
And he's the first Romulan in TNG who says anything. I didn't remember that. So they must have had the same thought that I often do with Romulan actors. That guy would also make a good Cardassian. And so he also ends up playing our first Cardassian, who is not Dukat.
Right. He's the one that goes
in The Wounded. Yes. Oh yeah, it's a great moment. Yeah. I wish that was Tomalak though. I wish they had the forethought to have Alemo's character be Tomalak, even though I love that actor and he's from Babylon 5, yeah. Yeah, Soul Dragon Gul Macet, not to be confused with Gul Mosed from Voyager. There are two gulls that sound like Mosed.
Krell Mosed.
Krell Mosed.
Hi, I'm Krell Mosed.
So somebody earlier said that they're disappointed that we never got a backstory for Guinan. I both am and am not, right? Because sometimes... Or not even sometimes. Most of the time when there's a big kind of like background mystery like that in Star Trek that we've always been kind of wondering about, when we finally get it, it's really lame.
Down.
Yeah. It's the same as like, constantly taking villains' teeth away and like, the Borg being, having their rules changed constantly, Q having his rules changed constantly. Like, if we finally got a backstory for Guinan, it depends on who wrote it. Like, if that's a Ron Moore episode, maybe you'd get something decent. But it's maybe for the best that we didn't. I don't know.
Right.
My big question with Guinan was always and this is one of the things that bugs me about this episode. And maybe it's just my own personal interpretation, and this isn't fair. But I can't remember what episode it was, Adam. She at one point says, I like bald men. Because a bald man was kind to me once. And I always assumed she must be talking about Picard.
Sure.
Right.
And there always seemed to be an almost like romantic or sexual tension between them that was always like unrequited and was never actually going to really happen. And then you get this, and it's pretty clear that at this point that can't be who she was talking about, because that's not how they meet. And like the whole, a bald man was kind to me once. I was assumed had something to do with the way she and Picard meet, and then you get this, and it's not that, and I'm like, oh, that's a letdown.
I mean, he does take care of her in the cavern and stuff.
Yeah, is that what she's talking about? Because if it is, it's okay. I think it's still a little bit lame if that's the case.
I still think that's Picard. That was like when I'm pretty sure that's when she was talking to Roland, maybe trying to get him and Ensign Ro to get her to trust Picard. I believe.
Yeah, maybe so.
If I'm remembering that correctly.
I don't remember the context of that. I also always thought that this was a strange choice for a season cliffhanger.
Yeah, it is a little odd.
I think it's worse because you had to wait 3 months. Now, I wasn't there at the time watching this because I didn't watch TNG much while it was on. I saw a lot of reruns while it was on, but I wasn't really keeping up with it. I would have been 8 when this episode aired.
What year was it?
This would have had to be 91, 92? Yeah.
92? I would have been
6.
This would be right before DS9 airs.
Yes, this was right before this 6th season of TNG was the season that DS9 premiered, and DS9 premiered in the spring of 93.
Another fascinating shot
winter
in this episode.
Of 93, January.
That's kind of a standard angle for the bridge.
Yeah, but like to have the 2 and then the 2, you don't usually get like Worf right behind Data.
Well, that's blocking before it's shot composition, but blocking like that always kind of irritates me because it's like you guys wouldn't have just wound up that way. Like, it's pretty clear a director told you to stand in those places, and like Plunkett says, it's like they're posing for a picture that nobody took.
Sure.
David says not everybody needs a backstory, and I agree with that. It's one of those things where like I'm back and forth on it because it was a thing that was always kind of teased, where it's like, you know, where exactly... I mean, we know that Guinan's planet was ravaged by the Borg and stuff, so, like, we know some things, but there's always the question of, like, how old is she really? How far do her powers really go? And I think part of the reason that people wanted that information was because it did feel like a thing that you could maybe, at any point, say, well, she also can do this, and go, like, way too far with it because you're not giving us specific rules about it. And they never really did that, so that's nice. But you get... It's easy with a character like that to not really trust it, that they won't just, like, suddenly give her, like, plot device powers in the middle of the scene.
Exactly.
Kellen says he never found the Romulans as interesting as they were in Balance of Terror. They just never lived up to Balance of Terror. That's interesting. I don't personally agree with that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I always thought the Romulans were interesting.
Solar Dragon, how do you recommend watching DS9? Should I finish TNG first or start watching the show simultaneously? Honestly, I would say finish TNG first. There's not enough overlap. They don't really have that much to do with each other.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you want. You can mix it up. You can do
I mean, as long as you've seen Best of Both Worlds.
Yeah, like
that's the only thing you really need to see.
Yeah, as far as having enough information to really appreciate that show, as far as the most satisfying experience of a watch, I would not mix up DS9 and TNG like that.
You wait.
I would go ahead and watch it all together, just because, especially by 3, it starts to get so arcy. I wouldn't want to interrupt that with TNG.
Like mix them, right?
Yeah. That's my thinking. And I don't say that about everything with other shows. Like, if you go back to Buffy and Angel, like, I would start watching those, you know, back and forth.
Right.
When you get to Angel at the beginning of Buffy season 4,
crossover,
especially because Buffy
right?
season 4 wasn't great, and so I mean it's not terrible, but Angel season 1 is really good, so you'd have a more fun experience if you mixed them. There's a lot more crossover than there was with Star Trek, Adam. Yeah.
Right. I don't think they've ever done a shot like that where they did it like through by Picard's arms through the horseshoe.
Oh, I missed it. I was looking at comments.
Back. Yeah, he was sitting back on the science console. It was interesting.
I like the lighting in this scene a lot.
Yeah, the cave definitely looks good. It looks a lot better remastered too. It kind of got washed out, especially when they go into that weird blue area later and stuff.
The synchronic distortion. There's a lot of technobabble in this.
Yes. I think this first part is real padded, and I think that's part of the reason there's so much technobabble, Brandon. This one of the reasons I'm not in love with this episode is because it feels like it could have been one part. It really doesn't feel like it needs to be in 2 parts.
Certainly.
And I think the main reason they did that was just so that they could have a big WTF moment.
Like they needed to do a cliffhanger after Best of Both Worlds.
If you,
TNG.
Yeah, exactly. If you go like 15-20 minutes into the episode and you're already in the 19th century, then you can't make that the cliffhanger.
Right.
Although I don't remember how far in, because do they not? I can't remember. Do they not go
first, and then they all go in after him, and that's the cliffhanger.
Okay, that's right. But we don't actually really spend much time in the 19th century in this part, right? Am I remembering that right?
They do.
Maybe they do. Yeah. Okay.
Do.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. So it is still kind of padded, though. I stand by that.
Subspace
now
field.
26. We're only 16. I thought we were in here longer.
Like 16 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is when he fades out.
So, Dragon, before watching TNG, I thought the Borg would be a lot more prominent than they ended up being. Yeah, I think a lot of people have that because of the reputation that Best of Both Worlds has, and the Borg is the big thing that you hear, you know, like not really Star Trek people talk about with TNG. Like that and Q, it's a big deal when they show up. But yeah, they only have really 4 appearances.
Right.
Right, it's Q-Who, and then it's Best of Both Worlds, and then it's Iborg, and then it's Descent. That's all you get.
Yeah. So this is when he says it's enough. What that word that the guy said earlier in the chat.
So this is an attempt at making a scene with a whole bunch of exposition look really dramatic and exciting, and it's not working.
They're just listening to Data speak.
He's just explaining what he's seeing. It would be more interesting if we were... They're just thinking. It would be more interesting if we were with Data right now and seeing what he's seeing, but then I guess that would maybe cost more than they want it to.
Yeah. Ophidian.
Like, I get the... Oh, yeah, that's what it's called. I don't know. I don't think this scene is achieving what it's trying to. I get what it's going for. It's not quite working.
I think, yeah, they're trying to show the tension they feel about Data going into this, knowing what could possibly happen to him.
Because they found his head and they know this...
Time-space continuum.
That's the other thing that drives me crazy about this episode, is that it breaks the time travel rules for Star Trek. That's its biggest issue, is that it is the... It's the linear time versus what Star Trek usually is. This isn't you go back and you can change things. This is whatever has happened already. Star Trek has never been this before. This is the first time we do this brand of time travel in Star Trek.
Nice.
And it really confuses the whole time travel thing with how this works, because usually you would have a timeline that would not include Data, and then you would pave over it. But if you went back in time. But this is having them basically fulfill destiny, where this has happened, so it has to happen. I don't know whose bright idea that was, but it's not Star Trek. It's not...
What, didn't you say they break that too in the 09 Abrams movie? Let's say a similar situation.
In what
you were
way?
Talking about in our review. I don't
remember either.
Brought that point up, I thought.
Adam?
Well, yes, in the sense that... But they break it in a different way, because they say, we went back in time, but we're now creating an alternate timeline, as opposed to paving over the timeline that existed already, and it has to be that because Spot Prime doesn't even think to try to change it.
Right.
That's also never how that's worked before. Unless it's simply there's some weird kind of temporal rift that changes the rules, that takes us back in time. But sort of like In a Mirror Darkly does it. Say it again?
The Star Trek, a lot of the time, adheres to the Back to the Future breaks their own thing too, don't they? Because they talk about the ripple effect, but then they have the alternate timeline in the second one.
But at least their first movie, they hold to a particular brand of time travel, yeah. And it's not, I don't know, it's not a big deal if there wasn't so much precedent already. We've already done a lot of time travel in Star Trek. It's always been consistently that brand of it. Beginning with City and the Edge of Forever.
Right.
Busted Sim says there's also TNG Season 2 times squared, which is just odd. Yeah, but I thought that, I don't remember what exactly how exactly the rules worked in that, but I thought it was because of some kind of like weird time rift or something. Like I thought the rules were changed for some reason. Where it's like
some sort of temporal anomaly.
We didn't intentionally go back and then pave over a timeline. Like it was a weird time anomaly thing. It's kind of a different sort of situation.
Where they
converged. He was going to do that, but then he winds up changing the course of the events by seeing himself come back. That changes the and they pave over that timeline like
which
you're talking about.
Would be consistent with how Star Trek does. Yeah.
Adam, do you happen to know, is this the Paramount backlot?
It's gotta be, right?
It's gotta be, right?
I mean, it's a backlot. I don't know where.
Just wondered if you knew that. And if so, which part of the backlot?
Wanderer asks if Voyage Home also does a predestination paradox. No, I don't think so. I mean, they go back and change things. They just don't change anything that matters enough to mess up anything, right? Like, they just go pick up whales.
They don't really change anything. I mean, I guess they get the transparent aluminum formula out. They took 2 whales.
Yeah, and that's not predestination paradox, because there's just that excuse that Scotty makes where it's like, what if that guy invented it? But they're not suggesting that that's actually what it was.
And then there's people that, like, talk about how in Voyage Home that Kirk's glasses are some kind of infinite loop. McCoy's gonna buy those broken glasses again, and they were never made or something like that. And I always just thought it was a joke.
Yeah,
like
that line throws people, and I don't think I don't think you're supposed to think anything of that. But yeah,
what really throws me about that is those glasses don't look anything like glasses in the 18th century look like. They look like Walmart readers. That makes no sense
Buzz-
to me, but nobody ever brings that up.
no, except for you. Every
I know.
chance you
Brings it
get.
up. I know, it drives me crazy.
There was also a
Yeah.
sign earlier in
Oh,
that
here he is.
scene. There was a sign of a key.
I do
for
really
like
like this because Dave's like, wait a minute, I know this game.
I
I can do
a
this.
key shop, and the key was a modern key, not a skeleton key.
Oh.
Oh, here.
Anachronistic sign.
Yeah, I forgot that was a lame-o. Boy, that's weird makeup for a lame-o. He is weirdly made up in this. With his fake facial hair and
Hiding it.
crazy hair. He looks like Sebastian Shaw from X-Men. Elena would have been great in that role, actually. I mean, I love Kevin Bacon, don't get me wrong, but...
Like he's speaking the obscure language known as French.
Data should have done what he did in that radioactive episode where he's like, I'm from the mountains. That's why I look so cold. I'm an Iceman. Solar Dragon wants to know what we think of Sela, Tashiara's evil half-Romulan daughter.
I was like, I hope he bites it to make sure it's gold.
Sela is a fanfic idea.
Sela's weird, yeah.
And ends up just being like a mustached twirly cartoon character in Unification. She ruins Unification.
We never really get to know her, and then she just disappears, and you never hear about her ever again.
Yeah. Sort of like Lore until we finally do Descent, and then it's terrible. And I kind of wonder where they're shooting this too, because this has to be either a standing set or just some building that they rented.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, that looks like the hat you have.
Similar. My bowler, my derby.
Yeah, they really could have done this in one episode. Keller Rourke, she was an excuse for Denise Crosby to come back to the show. She was Denise Crosby's idea, and I can't believe they bid on that and did it. But and
it wasn't just, I mean, and they teased it too.
Yeah, the silhouette in the background thing was so corny.
I think
it was way too melodramatic for the show. I mean, I didn't hate everything about it, and her performance was decent.
I liked her better in Redemption than I did in
Unification.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot she was in that. Honestly, Redemption's great, like all the way around. But yeah, Unification's obnoxious. That second part, and it sucks because Spock's not even in that first part.
I know the first part's good, but it's like the second part it just kind of,
With
they
Pardek,
just give up.
Brandon's favorite Romulan, Senator Pardek.
Pardek. Oh, yes, he would talk to Pardek.
Solar Dragon wants to know why Denise Crosby even wanted to leave in the first place.
Because she wanted to go be a famous actor.
Yeah, she gets on a TV show and then gets bored of that after half a season, and then is just really obscure. So she's like begging to get back in Star Trek.
I think she just got so annoyed at the craziness behind the scenes. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. But I thought it was what you said. I thought I had heard that. She just was kind of bored with it.
The only thing
she's a super nice lady though. I've met her. She's great. But I don't know that she was making the best career choices for herself back then.
The only thing I've ever seen her in after, like, outside of Star Trek was she was in a movie, a fantastic movie that
Here's the 49er.
Called Miracle Mile, and it had Anthony Edwards from ER, and it's about a guy that meets this girl, and they're gonna meet up at a bar or a diner at night in LA, and he misses it, and he winds up there later, and he walks by a telephone, and he gets a call, and it's from a guy at a nuclear missile silo. They're about to launch the missiles and stuff, and he like gets involved with all these people in the diner and stuff, trying to like Escape L.A. before the bomb comes. It's a great movie.
I've never heard of that.
Miracle Mile.
You know, to her credit, she also probably assumed that show was going to get canceled.
Yeah, Ryan Patrick Stewart thought it was gonna.
Right, but Patrick Stewart stuck with it. He's the captain, after all.
Everybody had doubts about leaving that.
His agent's like, listen, this isn't gonna last 12 episodes or whatever.
Right.
No, everything about the success of Star Trek is a mistake, and built on a series of really strange conveniences.
Weird, strange stuff, right.
Yeah, and a whole lot of luck. Like, if TOS had gotten canceled when it was supposed to after the second season, it would never have gone into syndication and could not have been popular in the 70s to get a movie. If Phase 2 had happened, it might have sucked. It might have gotten canceled. There might not have ever been Star Trek after that.
Network might have folded, and that might have been the end of it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, like, motion picture, even though it's boring and people don't like it, made enough at the box office to make another one. It did rake in some money, even though it was really expensive.
And even that, they were like, well, should we really do another one? And then they finally got convinced to do it, basically, and then after, and Star Trek 2 wound up being such a huge success.
And if it wasn't as good as it was, and it was just a mediocre hit, we may not have ever had TNG. Like, that had to be a movie series and stick in people's minds before anybody would have thought to make another TV show, probably. And then TNG was constantly back and forth, will it or won't it stay on, and the cliffhanger between 3 and 4, Best of Both Worlds, was really important. And then this continues to happen after that. DS9 maybe gets canceled if Worf doesn't come in. Voyager maybe gets canceled if 7 of 9 doesn't come in. Nothing special happens between 3 and 4 of Enterprise, and then it gets canceled.
Right. Is that the Sumerian Sunset?
No.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure she's doing chemistry. What are you making?
The fortuitous decision to have this syndicated directly to local stations rather than on a network also saved it. Because what were these local stations?
It's a Zartak aperitif.
Star Trek reruns.
Appletini.
Now you're just writing random letters and calling them words. Zappertiff. What the hell? I'm sorry. What, Adam?
I was saying the fortuitous decision to have this a syndicated show directly to the local stations rather than on a network saved it as well, because it's not like the local stations were airing anything important before this. They were probably airing reruns of the original series that they just they bought this up, and as long as it was doing better than that, they were going to keep it on, and they didn't have to worry about a network and its advertisers and stuff.
That's true too. If it wasn't in syndication, it probably wouldn't have made it. Yeah. Busted Sim says that Crosby was upset because she wasn't getting enough to do and not enough dialogue. And he says, to be fair, all the female characters were treated that way. Yeah, but some of the male characters were treated that way too. Riker doesn't get a lot to do in the first season either. Sorry, was that?
Geordi did not get much until he became engineer.
Yeah.
He was just the blind guy, basically. That was his character trait in the first.
I would argue Troy was way more front and center than a lot of characters.
Yeah.
So here's where she asked Picard, do you remember the first time that we met? We think it's going to get something interesting.
Yeah. O'Rourke, I forgot about that.
Look at that.
And to think Crosby was originally cast as Troy, I forgot all about that.
Yes, that would be very odd. That.
Well, then she might have gotten eaten by a tar monster.
So I guess it wouldn't be that
he took
odd.
His phaser apart. I forgot
kind
about
of a tough version of Troy in Face of the Enemy. So she might have pulled it off. I don't know.
I like how he's reconfigured 24th century.
I think she would have been
technology
back to what Spock did in Guardian.
Yeah,
I think if Crosby had gotten Troy, she would have been written very differently. I mean, that's a different character. Because. Like, I think they would have written her more rough around the edges.
Yeah.
That is convincing, Data.
That is a weird color shirt for Data there, and that's another thing with the That's another example, Adam, I think, of the remasters popping something out that I didn't really notice before. Because I don't know that it looked as pink before.
Yeah.
Wonder which character is worse in the long run, Troy or Wesley? I'm going to say Wesley mostly just because he's written off crappy and he's really obnoxious later in a different way than he was earlier. He has some good episodes in the middle. As I've said before, one of my favorite all-time episodes of TNG is the episode with him at the academy where he gets kicked out, or almost gets kicked out, the first duty. But Troy gets better as we move along. By the end, she is fine. Like,
yeah, I don't mind. She definitely got better. This ship's coming in.
I feel like at this point in Star Trek, we still were able to treat time travel like it was always a major event, and I think you get to a point where we do it so often that it kind of gets real routine.
Right. What's an oyster pirate? I don't think that's a real thing. I'm pretty sure he.
Well, we're gonna look that up.
Oyster pirate.
We're gonna find out what an oyster pirate is. It's your mom's Facebook. Your mom's Facebook is an oyster pirate. Oyster pirate.
Some of the oysters are.
Oyster pirate is a name given to persons who engage in the poaching of oysters.
Ooh.
It was a term that became popular on both the West and East Coasts in the United States in the 19th century. It is indeed a thing. Oh, there's a reason. There's a reason. The term oyster pirate appeared in several literary works by Jack London.
Oh.
London usually used the term without explanation. I wanted to be where the winds of adventure blew, and the winds of adventure blew the oyster pirate sloops up and down San Francisco Bay. Writers about London also used the term without explanation. He was a sailor, seal hunter, tramp, fish warden, oyster pirate, canary worker, jailbird, boxer, and gold digger. As if everyone knew the meaning of the term. That's fantastic. Somebody did their homework, or somebody just really liked the works of Jack London.
There you go.
Samuel Clemens.
I have talked to like literary scholars when I was in college about this episode, because I knew some Star Trek fans that were into literature, and asked them how good of a Clemens this was, and they're like, well, he's sort of a caricature, but better than you would expect. Like,
right.
I think a lot of the factual stuff isn't like really incorrect. He's there's a question about whether he's really over the top or not.
Right.
Because Clemens was known to be sort of a character,
we don't
wasn't
really
he?
know what Samuel Clemens sounded like either, because there's no actual audio recording of his voice.
Don't we just have reports of it to go on?
I would buy that he's somewhat theatrical like this, certainly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess the deal is the voice. It's a little cartoony.
Yeah.
David Crabtree says that it annoys him to great end. Busted Sim not happy with what they did with Troy and Riker and Picard. Yeah, me neither. I don't want to talk about that. But if I do ever meet Frakes now, I'm going to ask him to make me a pizza. Somebody in the comments says, let's talk Star Trek. That's what we're doing. We are talking Star Trek. Sorry, what?
Look at that guy. Is he like a general of a European nation?
Yeah. Oh, the guy on the left, the guy with the Swami hat.
There was like a guy in an Austro-Hungarian Empire uniform or something.
He just took that oyster.
That makes him an oyster pirate. Yeah.
Oyster pirate.
Oyster pirate. That's what his medal's for. Piracy of the oyster.
Illegal piracy.
I'm going to start talking like this and see if I can get away with it.
Like old son.
Hello, everyone!
Wow!
I'm Captain Logan! Let's watch some Star Trek!
Next week,
sound like a
Trek Club brought to you by the reincarnation of Samuel Clemens.
Today we've invited several oyster pirates. He sounds like a SpongeBob character.
Yeah.
Yes, we did end up doing our second episode of the show on Star Wars Day. That was not planned, but I'm happy about it. I'm happy with
After your
that.
first strike, you talked about it.
Well, people in the comments were talking. They get the strike.
Data's tie is very big.
Yeah, that tie's insane. I'm sure it's period accurate.
Yeah.
They are definitely trying. You know, you watch stuff like this and you're like, okay, there's some attention to detail
this episode definitely costs money.
Trying to make it look like... Yeah, and pretty clear that in being a big, season cliffhanger, they took some of their budget from the season and did more with it this episode and probably cut down on some other episodes. It's just usually when we think of episodes that do that, they're like big action-packed episodes. So, I mean, I applaud them for throwing a lot of money at something that's not like bam, pow, like a big war epic or something like Redemption. I'm just not super impressed with the story is all.
Right.
But, I mean, it looks nice. It's shot real well, certainly. And Starship!
NCC 1701.
And it's nice to get Guinan in another two-parter like this and make her a main character.
Was Guinan in season 7 of Next Generation
At all? I don't think so. I don't think she makes one appearance.
I don't know why.
I think at one point I read about that, and it was just that she was really busy with movies. That was a big year for her.
That was when, like, Sister
That was
Act
right
and
around
all
Sister
that
Act.
stuff
I don't know if that was the
going
year that
on,
came out or if it was the year before, but I think she was doing a lot of stuff right then.
Yeah.
So Data understands, like, almost immediately after their exchange that she is in this time period. Have they already established that she lives for a really, really long time? They have, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's because she's also
mentioned it before.
like, as Generations happened by now?
Generations. Generations is a movie.
No, I know, but
It's after this series.
Is it after this ended? I couldn't remember if it was after this ended or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Brandon.
All right.
You thought Generations happened during TNG?
I guess I couldn't because the ship gets destroyed.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm thinking.
I just can't believe you thought that. That's hilarious, Brandon.
That was like your favorite part, remember?
Yes, but I wasn't thinking about that being that movie. No, they've already introduced the fact that she lives for a really long time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Going all the way back to Q-Who. I mean, you get that
That's right.
sense certainly because they know each other.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like I can't remember exactly when they say it. They use this thing a lot. These props a lot.
Oh yeah, these field enhancers.
Pattern enhancers, yeah.
pattern
Although
enhancers.
it's funny you say that because I think they look different a few times. Like I don't think it's not even always the same. I think they're different props half the time.
Voyager has their own version.
They got these little things on the side. I don't think those are ever on there after this.
The fins that run up the edges.
So they're like little canisters around it. But they always do that though. They always go.
They always flash, and then they're all of a sudden enhancing patterns.
So yeah, Jerry Harden, this guy who plays Samuel Clemens, I know I've seen him in other stuff.
Yeah. I definitely can't remember what else I've seen him in besides the X-Files.
I don't think he makes another Trek appearance, but maybe he does.
I think he is too, and I can't remember what it is.
Well, I'm gonna check.
The phase discrimination.
Wow, there's so much technobabble. It just makes you want to fall asleep.
Oh, he was so he was Radu and that when the bow breaks.
Oh, okay.
I always
So
call him
he's earlier than.
And then
than
he was
this,
somebody
but
called
there's-
Neria in an episode called Emanations of Voyager. I have no idea what Emanations is.
I don't remember right off either.
Ridiculous episode where somehow Harry gets transported to that planet and he destroys their entire religious beliefs about where they go when they die. Remember they put their people in those pods
Yes!
when they die and that thing
He's in
comes
that?
into their neck.
Well,
Yeah,
that's-
he's in that.
So what we're learning is that he's really wasted in other roles. Then
Well, that's really blue. Ooh.
it definitely did not look like that before.
No.
It wasn't that blue. That's actually really cool looking.
Yeah.
So do we think that this is because of the remaster, or are they taking creative license and color correcting this and making it look like this?
Washed out because of the videotape transfer.
It's cool looking.
I mean, I'm sure they probably did some color correction.
I feel like after the remaster, there's a lot of stuff in TNG that we're seeing for the first time the way it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Busted Sim Times Arrow Part 2 really is the better episode, but I think there's like months-long time skip to start it off. Yes, they do that whole, it's been 3 months for you, so it's also been time for them.
Right.
When we get to the beginning of that episode, I'm pretty sure that happens.
So they had all been stuck down there too, or just Data?
What do you mean?
Had time passed for the rest of the characters, or just Data?
Yeah, because they're going to be established in the 19th century when we get into the next episode, where like they know people and they've been doing stuff, and yeah, they've been there for a little while.
That's crazy. I didn't even remember that.
Yeah. Pretty sure that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Busted Sim, we'll watch for it. I'm almost positive you're right about that.
Like
This is not one I intentionally go back to a lot, but I don't know, I've probably seen this 5 or 6 times.
I feel like it came up in Trek Club once or twice before.
Yeah, at least one. The 2-parters we didn't tend to repeat much, so we probably just did it the one time. But here we are again.
Here we are again.
See, we're padding it out. We gotta watch every single character climb up into that thing.
Yeah. To be continued.
Can't wait to find out what happens.
Next time.
Do you think anybody was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Like, it's fun and all, but you gotta wait 3 months for that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Alright, folks. Well, that concludes the first part of our 2-part episode. I can't believe we're starting this whole thing off with a 2-parter.
My thing just started.
We don't get to spin the wheel again today, everybody. But we have added another episode to replace this one. So hopefully we get to Yesterday's Enterprise soon, because I like that one a lot. So we're gonna talk for a little bit before we get to the next episode. I wanted to do a little discussion topic, and if you guys want to do a little bit of Q&A right now, that would be a good time for it. We'll talk for 10 or 15 minutes and then get the next one started. So my discussion topic for today, you guys, and we'll talk about this for a minute and then see if anybody else has stuff they want to talk about related to Star Trek. Keep it Star Trek, because this is Star Trek Club, and that's what we're doing. I want to ask you guys if you could pick anybody, and I mean now. I don't mean like from any era. I don't mean like back in the 90s. I mean like right now, with like actors that are still with us and characters that we legitimately could bring back to screen. Forgetting the quality of Picard, just putting all of that aside for a minute, if you could pick a different character that we, instead of Picard, had brought in to move forward with, who would you have picked? Because I don't think, even if it was a good show, I don't think Picard was the right character for that. It would have been cool if he was in a show, but to have like a star vehicle show for somebody, for it to be a 96-year-old character, and you want to keep making more seasons, I think that's a really strange choice. Who would you pick if you were going to like keep running with somebody for 2, 3, 4 seasons?
I would like, well, I don't know, because he's kind of insane, but I would like to have a sequel to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, all things being equal, where you thought Avery Brooks could like show up to a set on time and not freak everybody out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first thing you have to do is make sure not to have a piano on set. That's very, very important.
Yeah, but I would definitely, because that that idea that they pitched in the DS9 documentary we saw seemed like it would be good, but of course they wouldn't have those guys back to do it. But if they could, I'd like to see that.
Do you think you could get away with a couple of seasons of a Q show?
Like Q by himself?
That
like
was-
as the protagonist?
You.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting. That sounds like the most expensive show ever made. Like, it would be like an anthology show, right?
Right.
Where, like,
Uh-huh.
Q just... It's like Reverse Quantum Leap, where Q
Yeah.
just shows up and Fs with people every week, and he
Yeah.
just keeps jumping around. So, you wouldn't want it to be like a Discovery or Picard thing. I mean, you don't want anything to be like those shows. But you wouldn't want it... but you wouldn't want it to be like that, like those in that... I don't think you'd want, like a 10-episode ongoing narrative for Q. I would think you would want to be, like, episodic.
Oh, of course, yeah,
Yeah.
just different time frames and
That's a super fun idea. It would be... The way I would do it is I wouldn't actually make Q the protagonist. I would have him be the one character that's in every episode, but I would use him like the Watcher in Marvel Comics in like What Ifs, where it's like, bet you didn't know about this crazy thing that happened in continuity, and then he like he like basically like narrates the story and tells the story, and he could be involved in the story.
yeah.
But I think
So
it'd be
like
cool
starts
if he was,
out with a story and then he just has to be
Q's
a part of
basically your crypt keeper for that show.
Okay, yeah.
I think that would be the way to do it. But no, that's a really fun idea. I mean, it'd be weird if Delancey played it now.
Yeah.
it. Sure, but I think that they could get away with not necessarily conceit, but just pretend like he still looks like that. I think he could get away with it.
I think you could animate that show
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
and have him voice it. So you do a
That'd
show
be cool.
because a lot of people wanted, including myself, wanted Discovery to be an anthology show, and apparently Fuller pitched it that way. This is what I've heard. I don't know how true this is. That there was talk about it being an anthology show where every season would be a miniseries unto itself and would jump around at different time periods, and that would have been awesome. And that's what I really wanted. A
remember
Q
that was
show
a
where
rumor.
money is kind of no object with animation because you can draw anything you want to. That's a cool idea. I like that a lot, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard that the original pitch that Chabon had for the Picard show was just Picard at his vineyard solving mysteries, basically.
Well, I
That
mean,
actually sounds better to me than the Picard show.
I was gonna say I would have laughed at that, but I've seen that show now, and that sounds better than what we got.
Yeah. Even like
Jas-
Jessica Fletcher on the Murder, She Wrote.
Jason wants a Mirror Universe series. I would have been down with that at one time, but now all we can make is like
No,
dark,
Mirror Universe. No more
gritty.
Mirror Universe.
I'm kind of tired of Mirror Universe,
Put a
but
moratorium on Mirror Universe.
but Jason loves it and he hasn't seen all of it yet, so I can see why he's saying it. You can see why a 10-year-old would go Mirror Universe show.
yeah. Ooh.
David, I'm with you. I mean, I can't say no to that. The Misadventures of Berlinhof Rasmussen. How do you say no to that? And I love Matt Frewer so much. Matter of Time is my favorite TNG episode, and just because it's so much fun.
He
And
hasn't aged that much, actually.
I mean, he has. He's an old guy, but you could just set him in the right era, and it's fine. But I mean, he's aged well. He looks good. It's just he does look like an older guy, and he looks like he's in his 60s. But Frewer should have been an Enterprise. It's always bothered me we didn't do that episode because that's the era he's from. He's from the 22nd century. How do we not do that show? Always bothered me that we never got there.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be interesting too.
having seen, I mean, I guess I said like forgetting the quality of Picard. I'm not really speaking to that when I say this, but having seen Picard, I think Frakes could still hold his own. I think he could still have his own show.
I think
I really do.
He still got the
And in his 2 appearances in that
He looked
show, I could
good
not.
in that uniform
Yeah, he did, and I mean,
at the end.
if I were him, I would maybe try to drop a few pounds. I go to the gym for a little
Yeah.
bit, certainly, but he looks
Lay out
good.
the pizza.
And yeah, exactly. And but if I'm I mean, like, I'm not saying like he's so fat or whatever, but it's just if you want to be like the captain of a show, I don't know if you I would maybe get a little bit more fit than he is
he
right
would
now.
have kept up with Parisi Squares anyway.
Maybe, yeah. But anyway, but I mentioned that because or Amujitsu. I guess it just depends on the week.
Oh my god,
Like,
like American Gladiator.
Sometimes he's into that. Sometimes he's into Parisi Square. I assume Parisi Squares and Amujitsu are exactly the same thing. We just never talk about Amujitsu again.
Never show Parisi
We don't know what it
Square.
looks like.
This is the most dangerous game.
Yeah. But anyway, every time he was on screen, I found myself thinking, well, no, he should have gotten his own show.
Yeah.
That was the way to do that.
Done that thing where they were going to do him in the Titan. Was it the Titan? Was that the ship he got in Nemesis?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have done that.
Well, and a lot of people assumed that we were going to get a glimpse of the Titan, and that's what we were going to do in the finale of Enterprise, and then they went back to Pegasus for no good reason. But yeah, a lot of people throwing out other ideas. Jason wants a Zindi show.
Oh, the season of Enterprise, Jason.
Jason loves the Zindi.
And then do a Borg-centric show.
No.
We did that. It's called Voyager.
Wow.
But
I mean, the Borg go around assimilating species.
I think you wouldn't want a show where you're following them as your protagonist. That's weird. The only way that could work is if you had. This is so dumb. This is so dumb. But this seems like a thing Brandon Braga absolutely would have done. You do a show where you have. This is so stupid. You have a drone where the Borg somehow or rather don't realize that it's disconnected from the collective or that it has its own personality, and the drone is going along with the Borg trying to mitigate their assimilating people.
But then he'd be seen as a threat, right?
Yeah, well, somehow he's all under the radar or something.
Undercover drone.
It's so stupid. It's such a dumb idea.
It's Quantum Leap with Borg.
Iborg.
Kellen O'Rourke mentions eugenics wars. There was allegedly greenlit a con show. I'm sure that never actually happens. They just mentioned that for PR purposes because all the shows that they've mentioned, with a couple of exceptions, because that animated thing is definitely happening. But beyond that, that Lower Decks thing, which by the way looks really really awful. I've seen a picture of it and it looks really stupid. But anyway, they just keep announcing things to try to make Star Trek sound relevant. They're trying to dupe people into thinking that new Trek is more successful than it is, and it's sad. So like that, that's probably never going to happen. That's one of the only ideas that if they did it right, I could have been on board with. Who wants a Mirror Giorgio show? Oh God, no. Please God, no. Who wants a Section 31 show? But please God, no. But anyway.
Yeah, the Lower Deck show, it is going to be done by somebody from, like, Rick and Morty. I don't know if that means it's going to be...
It's definitely going to be like that.
You know?
Well, I've seen... like I said, I've seen a picture of what it looks like, and it looks...
character design, and they look kind of stupid.
And it looks like that kind of show. I'll be surprised if it's not. Busted Sim says, with the stupid idea I just pitched, Cap, that's Hugh, and it would still be better than his use in Picard. Okay, let's go ahead and get on to our second episode now. I thought there might be some other topics, but everybody just wanted to talk about that. So we'll go ahead and jump now into Time's Arrow Part 2.
Yeah, that Khan thing went out the window when they fired, or when his non-involvement with Nick Meyer, remember? He was, like, involved.
Does it go back that far?
Or whatever, and then they didn't
use
them.
Okay, we'll just have everybody go to Timestamp 0 and watch the recap so that everybody's able to actually be synced with us. So everybody, if you're watching with us, go to Netflix, Season 6, first episode of that season, get it to Timestamp 0. It's Time's Arrow Part 2, and get ready to press play when I say now. Here we go, everybody. Everybody, please press play right now. Well, Brandon, it's somewhat coincidental that we're watching these episodes, and you just mentioned this the other day.
Yeah, definitely.
Were you just talking about this, Brandon?
We were talking about this episode because we were talking about...
What show was that on? Was that on a game stream, or...?
No, because we were watching Star Trek up in your living room. We were watching an episode of Sarah.
I'm pretty sure you mentioned it on camera, though. I thought so. Maybe not.
I did.
Maybe not.
I don't remember, honestly, exactly what we were talking about at that
Starship?
Oh, no.
So that came later.
Wanderer, I agree with you. I would love Michelle Yeoh as the character she started off as. Here's an idea. Why don't you just make her the captain of that show and not kill her off right away?
Not as Space Hitler.
What were you...
The cannibal, which we forgot about.
Yeah, Yeah, she's a cannibal, and she's the emperor instead of empress for no good reason. And I don't know, it's
like,
dumb.
She's not really a cannibal because it wasn't her own. It's the same species.
That's the stupidest loophole.
So that's interesting. So the first time they meet is the first time for her, but it's the second first time they meet for him.
It's like, yeah.
Right.
Picard knew her.
And would have always been that way, yeah.
So they do not have the same first meeting experiences, which is kind of fascinating when you really think about it.
Except time travel in Star Trek has never worked that way.
Well, sure.
Like, the only way that works is if this is, like, an already altered timeline. If Picard's, like, going through this, like, the second time but doesn't realize it, but then when they go back in time, they should meet themselves.
Right.
Like, the way Star Trek usually works is that if this has happened already,
right,
they should already be there, and they should meet. It should be Back to the Future too, right? They should meet. They should meet themselves in the past.
Right.
No, but it's them going into the past that causes the events to the future. They weren't already there. This is there from. If you look at Picard linearly, this is him moving forward in his own timeline straight into the past.
No, I get that. But the point I'm trying to make is Guinan is already living in a second timeline because she remembers having met him in the past. You see what I'm saying? This is not how Star Trek works. She's already in a second timeline.
It's like a closed loop is what it is.
Yeah.
That's how they treated it in this episode.
Yeah, Trek has never worked that way before.
No, because Guinan didn't go back in time. Guinan was just there.
I know.
Right,
that's what I'm
different.
But she's living in a second timeline that has already been altered by Picard going back in time.
Okay, sure.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Wanderer, that's right.
Credits in the last episode. We watched those? Apparently we did.
We did.
We didn't all skip them. Okay, everyone skip the credits right now. No, we didn't do that. But yeah, Brandon, what I'm saying is there has to be in the way it's always worked in Star Trek. There has to be a version of that timeline where Guinan never met Picard.
So, but also Guinan wouldn't have known that was the first time they met until the versions of Picard went back, and when he comes back again, then she would have that knowledge.
No, that's right.
An example of what Jay's talking about is one of my favorite episodes is Past Tense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gabriel Bell did not always look like Benjamin Sisko until he went back and took his place, and then they went into changed the future basically.
Yep.
How interesting must it have been to be the actors on this show thinking in your first season that it was going to flop, and then it just turns into a massive success.
Seriously.
And you're like, I had no idea when I took this job that I was still going to be doing this 30 years later.
Well, and it was smart that sometime in the middle they decided where they were going to cap it off. That they knew it was only going to be 7 because they could have gone longer and probably been successful, but like. It's really obvious that Berman is burnt out and that some other folks are burnt out, and they shouldn't have gone right into a movie. I mean, that's why Generations has the problems that it has. And you can see how burnt out they are because, as I've always said, Voyager Season 1 just feels like more TNG with a different premise and a different cast. Everybody should have taken time off, but the point I'm trying to make is, do you agree with this, Adam? If this had been on a network as popular as it was, because this was at one time the #1 show on television, if this had been on, say, a CBS or an ABC or something, they would have forced it to go past 7 seasons. Yeah, and it probably would have been a disaster. It would have been that CW situation where it's like, well, we can't let that go off the air.
Right.
It'd be like Dexter. It'd be like Smallville. It'd be, Dexter's not CW, but it would be like one of those shows that went on way too long.
Right. Now they wouldn't have. Now, the thing is, the network would have had to be. Would also been at the behest of the studio. Now the studio probably would want to go with what the network said, but since it was not produced by in-house like the shows are now.
Unless they
would have
trusted
averaged
that
over.
the spin-offs would do well enough. And I don't know that
Right.
they would have trusted that. I would think if they were doing spin-offs, they still would have wanted TNG to remain the flagship show for as long as humanly possible.
Right.
Really good wardrobe in these episodes, certainly.
Yeah, they did a good job. I like Riker as is he a policeman?
Yeah.
I think so. But yeah, you
He's
should
got a
have.
sheriff's
But like that
badge.
guy in the comments was saying earlier, they've clearly been here for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
Busted Sim, this is why we need a Department of Temporal Investigation show. Every week they have to decide if they solve the temporal issues by separate timelines, parallel universe, time loop, or total rewrite. That's great.
Oh, wow.
At one time, I kind of liked the idea of doing like a Time Fleet show, but you'd have to reinvent it because it was very silly, the way that's handled in Relativity.
Oh yeah.
And then Enterprise decided to be the time travel show.
With the same people from basically that same era too, you know, roughly.
It's weird because we've got we're talking about all kinds of stuff. We're in just 2 episodes we're talking such a gamut of Star Trek right now that we're gonna come back next week and be like, we don't really have anything left to talk about. No, I'm kidding. So you've got the 31st Century with Daniels, which was farther than we had ever gone before,
Right.
and it's real mysterious and amorphous, and we don't really know much about it. When you get to the beginning of 4th season, when Manny Koto going, I don't like the Temporal Cold War, it's stupid, let's write it out real fast, which he was right about, but the way they wrote it out was kind of bad.
Right.
If memory serves, the kind of monster-faced aliens from the future that took over the Nazis, I think they were said to be from 29th.
Yeah.
And 29th is Time Fleet, and they never bring up Time Fleet, which is weird.
Right. I don't even. Yeah, I don't remember how are those guys involved in the whole thing? I've completely blotted that out. Like who they were. Who recruited them? Was it Future Guy?
I don't think no, they had nothing to do with Future Guy. I don't think they really talk about it. Oh, have we talked about this? Did I tell you who Future Guy was supposed to be?
No.
Okay, so I had missed this. Jason asked me about Future Guy, and because he and I were watching Enterprise, and I said, well, it was a mystery. They never told us who it was, and then he gets written out, and they never reveal it. And apparently, 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was Braga. Was it Berman or Braga? One of them, but I think it was Braga. Somebody asked about it in a tweet session he did. And they said, and he's confirmed this a couple of times, so this is definitely what it is. Or at least he's saying now this is what it was.
Right.
He says that they had always intended for it to be Archer in the future. Future Guy was Archer. Which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but yeah.
Okay.
That was exactly Sarah's reaction. She was like, whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, he said Future Guy is Archer.
This seems like a bad idea.
It is a very bad idea. He stuck his finger in the electrical.
Oh, I thought you meant Future Guy being Archer was a bad idea.
That's a bad idea too. I think the timeline somebody did I read somewhere that they were never actually in San Francisco at the same time, so they definitely took some liberties with this.
Yeah. It would have been clever if somehow they had come together because of some time travel thing, and then we made it a slightly alternate history, but that's not what they did.
Right.
I think the only real problem with his performance as Clemens is that he has kind of the same way of phrasing almost every sentence. It's always an uptick at the end of sentences. It's like...
Right. It is.
See, you revealed that for everybody. It's the
Spoiled
best
it.
reveal, and you just ruined it.
30 years.
That pirate thing we were talking about, what was the clam pirate or whatever, the oyster pirate thing that we were talking about earlier, if you knew your stuff, that's a pretty cool clue.
Right. When we were kids, and I told you that, spoiler alert, the Romulans in Balance of Terror look like the Vulcans.
Dude, I'm not actually giving you crap for spoiling that. And we should say when we do these Star Trek Club episodes, we probably will spoil stuff. We'll probably assume that most people have seen the episodes we're watching.
So
some of them will be impossible to talk about without doing that, right? Like,
it kind of bothers me to realize that Samuel Clemens Mark Twain just stepped into that wardrobe, and Data like can't hear him scratching around in there.
Yeah, doesn't Data have really good hearing?
That's a good point. And he's not even he doesn't even have the 400-year-old head on yet.
Yeah.
No. That part's crazy.
Well, he has the head right now that
this.
will be the 400-year-old head later, but right now it's not 400 years old. And once again, the only thing that starts this whole thing is that his head is in that cavern, but the first time around it wouldn't have been, so none of this would have even happened. So how does it happen in the first place? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's why it doesn't work. You have to always have that kind of time travel, or you can't ever do it. I know I'm a broken record, but it drives me crazy. TNG loves their blue glowy electrical effects. Yes, they do.
Yes.
And they're inconsistent. Sometimes they look really good, and sometimes they don't. Shame.
Hey.
She's having a lot of fun in this episode.
Yes.
You know what's odd now that I'm thinking about it? Oh, wow. You know what just occurred to me?
What's that?
There's something else that kind of, sort of messes this up a little bit. Tell me if this is a leap I'm making. I realize that it's a later era, and I don't know where Guinan goes after this, right? Like, we don't know where she... I assume she's not on Earth for a whole lot longer after this. At the end of this, I think she mentions her father again. I'm not sure if she leaves or what exactly happens. But anyway, she acts like, in an earlier episode, when Picard takes her on the holodeck, that she knows nothing whatsoever about earlier Earth.
That's in Clues.
It's in Clues, yeah.
When he's like, it's a mystery, Guinan.
When she's confused about how to wear period clothes from the 20s or 30s, that's a problem, right? Because, I mean, like, she's wearing very complicated stuff right now that would have included some of the things she had a hard time with in that episode.
Certainly.
And, yeah, that's a little nitpicky, but the larger point here is... she had clearly never been to any earlier Earth era. Like, I don't buy that.
Can you make the case that even though they weren't going for it, can you make the case that it would just be that she's trying to cover for the fact that she's been there before?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Because that's a weird long game she's playing, if that's the case, and that's very silly. Because she shows up late to the holodeck because it takes her too long to get those clothes on. And the idea that she intentionally did that just to... no, I don't... That's silly.
And that episode happens... What is that, season 4, I believe?
Clues is, I think, season 4, yeah. Yeah, thanks for reminding me what episode that was, because it's one of those where it's got a teaser that's not directly related to the story, except thematically. But it was a cool way to set it up, where it's like, we're going to go search for clues, and then...
Right, that's one... I like that part where Picard's like, it's a mystery, Guinan. Who is this man?
Yeah.
Why did he kill?
And then he spends the whole episode talking about minor... It's a minor mystery! That's a great episode. I like that one a lot.
And Worf's arm gets broken by Deanna in that episode, like, twice.
That's pretty great.
I have said this before, but, like...
Man, I love being a turtle. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mark Twain is one of those people who exists in time that I could believe could wrap his head.
Real quick, Adam, why couldn't we have gotten an action figure of Picard in this outfit?
No, that's a great outfit.
It's a great outfit. Sorry,
it's almost like a Charles Dickens outfit.
Mm-hmm. Your hat again, Brandon.
Similar.
Hasn't been an earthquake here in 30 years. This is like a few years before the 1908 earthquake.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain is one of those people in history that I could believe could wrap his head around the idea of extraterrestrials or better technology.
And I like how they handle it here. When he goes up to the Enterprise, he's not going to be like, this is breaking my brain. I can't handle
like
this
that
at
one
all.
girl who later killed herself after she saw the Enterprise.
Yeah, but
from
that
the primitive.
that worked really well.
No, it did. It did.
Yeah.
But this works too because
we
of the
do this
opposite.
with a couple of period type characters, and of course, it's two totally different situations. Here, it's an actual character from history. The other place where we do it, you probably know what I'm going to say, is Moriarty.
Yes.
And that's another character that, and of course, he's a character, but that's another.
But he's an
character
intelligently
from that
written character who
period.
would be able to understand.
You imagine he could
or whatever.
eventually get his mind, and both of them go, "It's a boat, right?" Like, no. By ship we mean, oh, we're in the spaceways.
Yeah. Kind of those forward thinkers like Jules Verne types.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yep. I always bought that. And yeah, I like that it doesn't phase him too much, but we also don't like skirt by it real fast.
It's kind of this is a weird scene because they're made to look
it, like restores his faith in humanity to see.
Yes, I kind of do like that.
humanity.
That's very Star Trek to me. It's maybe a little bit sappy, but like
I like
you got to do something with it, right? Like
it's kind of sappy.
it makes it feel less gimmicky. That it's just Sam Clemens to get Sam Clemens, and then like he doesn't learn nothing. Like I kind of like that.
Right.
I feel like it would have changed his writing more than it did, though. If that had the only issue I really have with it, and I forgot that they did that. No, I like that because Sam Clemens is famously kind of a cynic, and I like that idea. I'd have to go back and look at the history of it and see if there's like a place where that kind of changes. But I would think that he would end up inventing science fiction, or I forget where this is in proximity with Wells.
Well, Wells this was before or after Wells, because Wells was around until the 40s, I believe.
Yeah.
He had written like War of the Worlds in like 1890 something, I believe.
So this is before that.
Yeah, and technically, I guess you could science fiction itself, you could actually date back to Mary Shelley.
Right. Yeah, but as far as like spaceships and stuff,
right,
you got to get to Wells before you have that, and obviously Jules Verne is important, but that's not technically really science fiction yet.
Right.
That's a stepping stone that gets us there, but some people like to say Jules Verne is the first science fiction author. He's really not. He really is Shelley, and then after that, it's Wells.
Well, it reminds me of one of my favorite podcasts. It's called the Dead Authors Podcast, where this the premise is this comedian Paul F. Tompkins he plays H.G. Wells, who has a time machine like he does in Time After Time.
Yeah.
And he brings
and Lois and Clark
to today from their time to talk to them, and it's hilarious. But his running joke is about Jules Verne. He hates them because he always gets credited for being a science fiction inventor. It's like, submarines, we already have them. That's not science fiction.
Hot air balloons, we already have those.
How is that science fiction?
Busted Sim mentions who watches The Watchers. Yeah, that's an important one for what we were talking about earlier. And yeah, Guinan's appearances after this aren't great. David brings that up. She's only got 2 more, and one of them is Rascals. That's unfortunate.
Really? She's only been 6 twice?
And
wow.
She's only... And I forget what the other one is. I have to look it up. But
I bet you were a jumper, Jay. I bet you were.
Well, and in Rascals, she only bookends it, because it's another actress playing her as a kid. Through most of it.
Okay.
You were a jumper.
Can I just say that Data should know exactly where that cavern is, because Data's full of, geo-tracking. He knows where he is. So He was in the cavern in New San Francisco. He should know where it is in Old San Francisco. Like, shouldn't he just have...
Yeah.
Could we get you to say San Francisco again, Brandon?
San Francisco. San Fran.
I like this actress playing the landlord. She's really funny.
Great. This part's great. Oh, Baron.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the best scenes in this episode. And it's one of those comedy scenes that like shouldn't work but does. I don't know if it's as well written as it's acted. Like they're all having a lot of fun with the scene.
Yeah. There you see.
Condescending Picard is the best Picard.
Comes up time and again, doesn't it?
Not as often as I would like, though.
Sure.
In fact, if New Trek Picard had been called Condescending Picard, I would have been so much more excited about it. In fact, the exact show we have is a better show if it's called that. It's still terrible, but it's better if it's called Condescending Picard.
So he does reveal his bald head just right there. So that's kind of plays into your... Just the bald head right there.
To Adam's point later, you can kind of get away with the fact that he helps her out in the cavern, but I think that's so lame.
Yeah.
But like you said, origin stories seldom...
And it's also possible that he helps her out later on when he first meets her.
Right.
You know?
Yep, that's true too. It was just a weird choice to have her in this era. And this is honestly a little too Doctor Who for Star Trek.
Yeah. An albino. But not an Iceman.
Maybe he's both. Maybe he's an albino Iceman.
But he's not the albino.
I also
Right.
believe that Samuel Clemens is also the kind of person who would get himself into the situation if it actually happened in the past. He would be there. He'd be the one that they were interviewing afterwards. Oh, yeah, I was there. I met him. I know exactly.
Yeah, it's a
about
good
them.
choice if you have to do it. I think the other problem I have with this is just we do this kind of... At least he's not an alien the whole time, right?
Yeah.
At least it's not that TOS thing with Jack the Ripper, and we do it with some other characters, also in TOS, where it's like this character in history, or several characters in history, were all actually this alien guy.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't do that. But on the other hand, we far too often have like major characters in history that we've all heard of that are specifically visited by or visit the Enterprise, or Voyager in the case of the 37s. But which is hilarious because we now actually probably have found her. But anyway,
Riddle me this, Captain.
If this is right, you remember how in that what is that episode with Flynn, the guy that supposedly was Leonardo
I was about to
da
bring that up.
Vinci?
Yeah. That gets weird because of Leonardo da Vinci and Voyager.
Yeah,
and...
that's what I was gonna say. Janeway created a hologram of him.
Yeah,
that
but
episode was so weird.
I don't know. It's weird, but I don't know if you know this. They actually reference Flynn in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they tried to cover their bases on it.
Oh, I don't remember that. Wow.
Yeah, because I can't remember if it's Janeway or who it is, but somebody's like looking up stuff on the computer and is like Kirk even claimed to have met him. Like that's in there.
Right.
So,
Requiem for Methuselah.
It's so weird. Like, I didn't understand why Kirk gets so upset when that robot lady dies or whatever. Like, why did
I haven't seen that in so long. I
have
don't
such a
remember it.
connection with her that Spock has to make him forget it at the end?
I really need to do a watch through of TOS soon because I'm so rusty, and when we hit some more obscure TOS episodes, there's going to be a lot of me sitting here paying a lot of attention and hoping someone else is talking.
Yeah.
What's up, Brandon?
I was going to say, so this cavern here is supposedly made to focus the temporal energy, and it's very specific. It's alien technology. Why does all this stuff like holding up the cavern walls all like 19th century like posts and boards and beams? Wouldn't they have built it to like alien specs since it's hidden anyway? It's below the city.
Well, I think it was supposedly a mine shaft already or something.
Okay.
I think it was supposed to already be there, and then they like commandeered it.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
It's not like a holodeck or something where they try to make it look
Certainly.
like it. Busted Sim, I think one thing I like about this episode is that it shows for once the crew being incompetent at something. Which I love how competent they usually are, something not seen a lot in TV today. I mean, it's Voyage Home level bumbling. The fact that Trek characters are so out of their depth when actually in the past is a nice through line. Another reason New Trek's dialogue bugs me. That's a really good point, and you're right in that Voyage Home comparison. And that's, of course, how we mine a lot of comedy in Voyage Home, is that fish out of water, they don't know what they're doing in that era.
the original series, even in things where they weren't technically in the past, but like really an example.
They don't
like
know what they're doing with gangsters. They don't know what they're doing with Romans. In bread and circuses, and it's and there's even, of course, some of that comedy in City too.
7, what is that?
Simon Earth.
Is it not? No, Assignment Earth's the first one, isn't it? No, that's Assignment Earth.
It is Assignment Earth.
Yeah, you're
7.
right. I'm thinking.
I never can remember. Is it Tomorrow is Yesterday?
Tomorrow is Yesterday.
When we open the episode, they're just in the 60s already. We did that time travel thing, but we didn't want to have to make an effect for it, so we're just here already.
He'd be like, I'm standing here with the real Mark Twain. You wouldn't even believe.
You guys, I'm really glad we're doing the show together and we're doing the Star Trek Club thing again, because this was always how I kept my Trek mojo, man. Like, I have not talked this much about Star Trek and through like this many shows and eras and stuff and had to rack my brain as hard as I have tonight in a long time. I'm really enjoying it, but it's also taking immense concentration.
So can I mention another thing now? They are literally
a werewolf!
They're temporary.
That's awesome! I forgot he said that. That's so good!
This is a problem with time travel.
A werewolf!
Is the temporal out of placement that they've experienced, because they came. We don't know what difference in time it was that they came back to present day. If they came back 5 minutes after they originally left, or the Enterprise has been waiting 4 months for them while they've lived 4 months in the past.
Yeah,
we don't know when they come back to the future. They could be 5 minutes older in their regular time, but be 4 months older from the past.
Yeah.
Look, he's taking care of her, Jay.
It's. I like her outfit a lot, dude. It's negligible enough that like it's not that big of a deal, I guess. But I would wonder about that if it were me. You know, I'd be like, how many months have I lost or gained?
No, you got here 2 seconds before we did.
No, you'd care about that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they've just been sitting there for 3 months waiting for them to come back.
Exactly.
3 months, yeah.
You would at least have to account for that on on official Federation time records. You know, how long were you in the past? When did you leave? You know, the field report would mention all of that.
And who do they leave?
Okay, this is better than I remember it.
The entire cast back in time. Main cast of them back in time. So who was in charge of the Enterprise while they were gone?
Right. Yeah, you got your entire bridge crew. Except Worf. Worf would be in charge, right?
Oh, Worf was still there. I forgot Worf didn't go with them.
Right.
And then after that, we'll
he
say
doesn't get to go on any reindeer
After that, we'll say it's Ensign Rome.
Ensign Rowe.
Busted Sim, you're right. Raffi was in Picard talking like a Twitch streamer, and it's obnoxious. And the reason for that is because they're trying to make Star Trek and a present-day show simultaneously because they want to be all timely and stuff.
So he does make specific mention to her that she can't talk to him about it.
Yeah.
Has to fulfill itself. It's happened. Will happen again.
The self-fulfilling prophecy. That guy. I wonder who that crewman was.
You know what episode I always get to Return to Tomorrow, or Tomorrow is Yesterday confused with is Return to Tomorrow.
Me too. I can never remember which one is. But that's the one with like the gateway thing, right?
Return to Tomorrow is the one with Sargon, the guys in the ball, and they have the first body, and it's got Diana Muldaur in her first.
And she's great in that. Yeah. What's the one with the like time doorway thing? Not City, but there's one where there's like, is it Atos or is it?
Yeah. You're talking about the one with Spock's All Our Yesterday.
Oh yeah. That's the one I get it mixed up with. Yeah.
It's Marriott Hartley.
I can never remember what happens to that except there's that doorway thing and that's where Atos is.
Spock goes back to like a caveman and falls in love with the woman who had been exiled there and stuff, and McCoy's there too.
Don't you think that if this actually happened, they would have to send a report back to Earth and say, "Hey, look, Samuel Clemens is back from the past. Like, send your best Federation, scientists to get, this person, checked out. Get the history you need now while he's here, because we're gonna take him back." Like, Federation intelligence would be all over this too. I feel like.
I don't know why. Well, I guess it's because we don't have positronic brain technology. I was going to say, I don't know why we don't work harder at figuring out how to copy people's minds. Like what's his face in Schizoid Man.
Mm.
Yes.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Ira Graves. There you go. Jason just wrote, "I don't like this episode. It's boring."
There's Mott.
But all conquers.
Busted Sim, you can't talk to me about it, and if you ever have to dress in period clothes, act real incompetent about it.
They enslaved the Bolians.
Wait, what? Oh, yeah, that's hilarious.
So they've managed to make him look old-timey even in the I mean, he looks the same, but, like, he just looks super old-timey and not really realistically old-time, you know what I mean?
Okay, so, Troy, I get trying to explain this to him, but you seem almost intolerant at his sensibilities for the, like, she's really short with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she is a little short with him, yeah.
She's just got this face like, don't you understand? It's a positive future. We got utopia here. Like, no, he doesn't. You have to explain it to him. Where prejudice and intolerance are commonplace.
Self-aware.
And power is an end unto itself. Yeah, I'm totally going to cosplay that at some point and do that obnoxious voice everywhere I go. Yeah. I'm going to go to a con and people are going to be like, who are you supposed to be? I'm Samuel Clemens. I've been on the Enterprise.
You'd also think that there's at least somebody on board.
They found a lot of mileage for this weird cage thing, didn't they?
Yes. This is from Best of Both Worlds, and they keep bringing it back.
Lal first, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. That is Lal first.
Science lab. One of the science labs.
And then Lal, and then Best of Both Worlds, and then they use it with Geordi in that episode where he's like with the probe thing.
That's where they put Hugh
where
too.
He starts seeing his mom.
They have Hugh in this thing as well.
They don't put Hugh in it.
Yeah, they did. When they were going to install the virus in him?
Maybe. I didn't think so, though.
I'm almost certain.
He could have been in there.
Yeah, I don't remember.
She has to glow when she's awakening.
He's dying. These guys look like, don't they kind of look like, what are those, I don't really know Stargate, but what are those bad guys that like Ra was in Stargate called?
Yeah, it's the main bad guy species of that show, is the Goa'uld.
Do they kind of look like that a little bit?
Yeah. A little bit. What's fun about the Goa'uld is it takes so long to say that sometimes there's this shorthand where people just say Goa'uld, and they know it's Goa'uld, but they just don't feel like saying it. I love the Goa'uld staffs. I love them so much. I want one.
Are the ones that go...
Yeah, it's like the one prop from that show I'd love to have. Somebody made a really, like, a perfect replica that I saw at a convention a few years ago, and they wanted $1,000 for it, and it looked worth it, man. Like, it was cool.
So this is another example of a temporal anomaly moving back in time, basically. She just described it. And we get this a few times, at least. We definitely get it in the end.
Yeah, except that's a place where it's hard to say if that was really happening or if Q just made the whole thing up. But yeah.
True enough, it could just be another one of his trials for humanity.
I don't really know what's going on in All Good Things.
But at the same time, it is an emanation going back into the past, and that alien just basically said, if you do this in the future, it's going to destroy your world in the past, which would then lead to an anomaly or a paradox.
This feels to me like a bad guy species. I mean, just bad guys in that they're creating this conflict for us. I mean, they don't have bad intentions or whatever. But this seems like one of those species that just got lucky that they wound up where they are and not in the holodeck. They feel like one of those take over the holodeck kind of races.
Yeah.
Which we do in Voyager no fewer than 2 times.
That's true.
They're about to enact a plan that would more or less seal them off from getting the captain, and they're not.
This is too silly.
About it.
I'm sorry. This is like a screenshot with Data in that wardrobe in the Best of Both Worlds contraption thing.
Yeah.
It's too silly of an image.
They don't work. They're 400 years old. Oh yeah, this is when they have iron filings in here. I forgot about that.
Data's head, it does come off, but it was
400
blown
years old.
off.
How are we gonna get this back together?
It was blown off. So my question is, how does that affect things?
And wouldn't it take some know-how that you don't have, probably?
Certainly, if it's blown apart, you don't know how soon built this thing anyway.
So it wasn't sucked out; it was blown out. Is that what you're saying?
Blown out.
It wasn't sucked out; it was blown
Yes,
out.
uh-huh.
Common misconception. I knew him, Horatio.
Busted Sim, I share all of your complaints about Picard that you're mentioning right now, and I'm not going to bring them all up right now, but I will be doing a video on that soon.
So Picard plays.
There might be screaming and there might be crying. It's possible both of those two things happen. Sorry, what Rana?
He's placed a thing in Data's head for Geordi to find in the future. How would Picard even know what he needs to place where?
I mean, he would probably know that they needed to get them back together. So, okay, that looks really bad. That looked like some Radio Shack circuits.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It would be more complicated than that.
Well, usually it looks all like, LED lights and stuff and silvery.
The sequence, it never takes this long to initiate a sequence of phaser photon bursts.
Usually it's like 2 buttons.
Yeah. He's like, full compliment, Mr. Worf. Okay. Boop, boop. Gone.
Yes, but we need drama, Brandon. We need suspense.
Yeah, we need that whole minute. Oh god, my hair's all messed up. He's basically reprogrammed a positronic net to say these first words.
Yeah.
A binary message.
So, LaForge...
Did Picard learn ones and zeros after...
Yes, he did. It's as simple as Morse code. I think LaForge has had to do so much maintenance on Data over the years that he ought to be able to rebuild a positronic brain.
Right.
I don't buy that by the end of this show he does not know how to do what Soong did. I think he'd have to.
But Picard,
it doesn't seem like it would be that hard.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm just broader topic now. I'm just saying, like, if you think about all the things LaForge has done,
yes,
with Data's head,
LaForge can put him back together, but I don't know.
He should be able to build one.
And did Soong not write anything down? He just whip it up and then it's like, okay, there it is. That's all in my head.
One would assume that he did, and when he's found to have existed again,
you'd
think that his books would be there after he dies for real.
Yeah, they should be in that room where they find him in Brother.
Oh man, that's a classic situation. Only one person can go. Gee, I wonder who it's going to be. Because we have to contrive some way to get Sam Clemens off this ship and back in his time. So that we don't screw up the universe. There's risk in everything.
And
I'm going to write a book about a bearded man on a starship.
Riker already made the point that, the disappearance of Sam
and a werewolf! Sorry.
Riker already made the point that the disappearance of Samuel Clemens from history would be really bad. But since, they could have done like what they did in other episodes of Star Trek, was look up whether or not Samuel Clemens actually lived the rest of his life now in this timeline, they would know that he made it back successfully. But they don't go and look that up beforehand. They always, if they do look it up, they always seem to look it up afterwards, so they don't affect anything.
When did he die? Let's see.
Well, here's the question, Brandon. I know I'm a broken record, but the way we're playing with time travel in this particular episode, I don't know what you'd find. before you sent him back. So if you looked it up right now, would it say that he wasn't in history?
Because he's on the Enterprise now.
Yes.
Got it.
Or would you have to put him back first? I tend to think that the way they're pretending like time travel works right now in Star Trek,
to put him back first.
you actually wouldn't have to because it's inevitable that you did it already because you did it already.
I think you're
right.
But
normally in Star Trek, if you don't do it, you've already ruined the future right now. You have to put him back to fix it.
The future only exists as it currently is.
Yeah.
So Samuel comes with the out of time.
Time is a constant,
so therefore he wasn't in the back. So
time's a constant, usually in Star Trek, fluid thing that you can go in and mess with. Like, it's all happening simultaneously. You can mess with any piece of it, and it will screw up other parts of it.
Okay, I actually was wrong.
What's that?
But I thought this episode takes place later than it does. I thought
You're
it was
never
early
wrong.
20th century, but it's actually supposed to be 1893. Actually, War of the Worlds was written in 1898.
I thought it was like 1880 something. I didn't look it up, but
yeah, Mark Twain died in 1910, so he lived about another 17 years after this.
So it's funny to me that Picard is the literary guy, and he spends the least amount of time with Mark Twain.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
And he just looks so happy to meet Mark Twain right here. He's beaming, and he got no time with the dude.
I want to think that that's not an author Picard's actually spent any time with, and he's glad that he doesn't have to spend too much time with him, because then he would have to reveal that he's not a giant Mark Twain fan.
Doesn't he kind of say that at the end, though? I feel like he might have a little thing like saying, like, it was nice to meet him, but, like...
I don't think he does. I don't think he says that.
He's like, I didn't really care for the part in Huck Finn, where you have the two hucksters, and you kind of got into a plot hole.
He may have...
You didn't figure out how to get out of it.
He may have read that kind of thing as a boy, but, like, if you think about literary standards, Mark Twain was,
whatever's going on here
was more like
disrupted that transporter beam.
He was writing a lot of stuff that was like more appealing to like teenagers and young adults. Like Picard's such a like Dickens kind of guy. I don't know if he would also read a lot of stuff like Mark Twain or even London.
Right. But then again, Picard loves detective stuff too, so he's not above it. You know.
No, that's true. I always think of him as such a sophisticate, but then you also have people writing this stuff that probably are lumping a lot of that together as like, well, if you read, you read every, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
And there is, you know, I think a lot of the time we think of earlier periods of literature as it's all more sophisticated because nobody reads now, and so we don't really think about like what people would have considered lowbrow and highbrow entertainment.
Right.
So Picard just makes
I just don't know why that he doesn't write a space opera after this.
So Picard just says, and he's been returned to the 19th century to write the books that he would have written. No, not the way the rest of this episode has treated everything.
No, exactly the way the rest of this episode has treated everything, because they've been written already. It's already happened.
Why do I keep
I'm telling you, the way actual Star Trek works, this should F up everything.
That's why
but
keep
it
mixing
doesn't,
that up.
because they're saying it's different.
That's right. No, yeah.
They're saying it's more like the way Doctor Who works, or the way like the Time Machine works.
Doctor Who doesn't work at all.
Well, yeah, sure, but yeah, bad example. Well, there we go. We watched a two-parter, our first two-parter on Star Trek Club. Okay, I'm gonna leave this up to you guys. I have an idea. I can see doing this two different ways. We'll go ahead and break the episode here in a second. This is a thing we always did in Star Trek Club. Do you guys think we should, because this would give me something to put in the title to help maybe entice people to come and watch. Do you guys think we should do what we did today and continue just spinning the wheel at the beginning of each episode, or should we go ahead and spin it at the end so that we know what we're doing next time for the first part? I'm going back and forth on it.
I was thinking about that earlier today, and the reason I didn't say, earlier in this episode, the reason I didn't say anything was because I kind of liked the mystery of the next week.
I do too, yeah. But I can also see doing it that way. Because we don't know if we're going to
get a two-parter or not. You know, and let the cliffhanger until, we get to that.
Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think either way is fine. But the mystery is fun.
What if we picked the first episode at the end of the one, and then we picked the next one right before we did it?
Well, that's what I was going to say. We wouldn't pick both. I mean, we would just spin for the first episode of the next time.
Okay.
We wouldn't know both of them, but we would know the very next thing we were watching.
Okay, unless
mostly
we
just so that we spun a two-parter. Mostly just so that I could put something in the title. And people would have kind of an idea of what we were doing.
As long as we don't know both episodes ahead of time.
Yeah, but I like the mystery of it too. I'm also
still have one mystery.
Yeah, and I'm also starting a mystery commentary show apart from this, so we already have a mystery commentary thing on the channel, so this wouldn't have to be that. But so I don't know. I'm seeing it both ways. I guess we'll see what folks in the comments think as well before we decide for sure. And you know, whatever we do this week, we don't even necessarily have to do next time. But okay, so guys, we always in Star Trek Club rated episodes on the same 0 to 4 scale that I use in Superhero Rewind, and you can put in 0.5s as well. We'll let you guys rate as well if you're interested in doing that. This is kind of weird because we talked through the entire episode. Most of these things we've all seen several times and kind of know a little bit, so
we get the DS9.
It's not a real pure rating because we didn't have a real pure watch of it, but we will go ahead and do the rating thing anyway. So TH1 says, as long as you have a preamble like today, I'm cool with whatever. Okay. Anyway, so you guys go ahead in the comments and put in your ratings of this episode. 0 is it was horrible, 4 is it's the best it could possibly be, and since we watched both parts, we'll rate the two-parter as one episode. Adam, do you want to start?
Sure. Brandon, did you just say until we get to Deep Space Nine?
Yeah, because I don't know a lot of...
We've seen all these episodes a bunch of times.
Oh, he's just saying he doesn't know it. He doesn't know DS9.
Yeah, I haven't seen it a bunch of times. Yeah.
So he's saying he's going to have to watch episodes he's never seen or hasn't seen much while we're all talking through them.
I mean, that's
so
fine.
Hurry up and binge it.
No,
so
I know that. That's fine. I'm just saying, these are mostly going to be, Cap said these are mostly going to be episodes we've all seen many times. Me, it hasn't.
For years.
I know. I'm terrible.
Adam, why don't you go ahead and throw your rating out, buddy?
2.75.
Okay.
It's okay. It's not, but it's just it does drag. You're right. I feel like it could have been done as one episode.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brandon.
I was actually going to give it a 2.6. It's not my favorite, but I do like the premise. I never really had a problem with the way he plays Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain. I guess today I didn't have any more of a problem, but I see where it's kooky and caricature-ish,
Yeah.
And,
I also really like it. Like, when I say that, I'm not dogging on it too hard. Like, it's fun, but it's a little bit cartoony. And I was mostly just talking about what people that are more in the know about Sam Clemens said to me about it, because I talked to a couple people in college about that.
But I think Samuel Clemens should have killed himself when he touched that electronic part earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
But he gets shocked. But that's like serious voltage.
You know what sound he would have made? Ah! He would have sound like Professor Xavier in the animated Fox X-Men cartoon. Ah!
So yeah, 2.6 for me on this.
Okay, folks in the comments, I'm seeing let's see, TH1 gives it a 2, Wanderer gives it a 2, Jason gives it a 1.5.
Oh,
Jason did not like this episode.
We used to keep running tabs on these totals for these ratings.
Jason says, I don't really feel the need. Like, when would we go back to them?
No.
Jason says, I liked some of the characters, but I did not like the story, and it was boring. David also goes with a 1.5. He says, although it was a more enjoyable watch than I remember. Honestly, I had a lot more fun with this watching with you guys.
Yeah. That's usually the case with crummier episodes.
Busted Sim says a 3 because nostalgia good feels.
Yeah.
Can we also just talk for a moment about the fact that Picard and crew basically, when they find out there are no other options to take away this alien's food source, they do it anyway. And then they destroy their habitat. Like, they don't know anything about these things. They find out they're intelligent beings.
And usually Picard would be like, well, we can't do that, and then there would be a big, giant, ethical discussion
this should have
about
been a three-parter.
Oh, God.
To find life, to discover it, and not to destroy it. And now here we are.
So there's an
what
ethical
Picard should have done
conundrum that they
was
never
figure out a
tackled.
way to to fling them into the far future, and then they can just screw with people there because
They can
the
mess
future
with
hasn't been
the
written yet.
aliens from the Enterprise episode.
That's the problem. That's the
time
problem I
travelers.
always have with going
Go back to
forward in
this.
time.
Wait, which Enterprise episode?
The one with the Nazis.
Oh yeah, sure. Mhm.
Yeah.
And then they inadvertently started the temporal Cold War with this.
Picard's fault.
This is
Picard
the,
was Future Man.
this is the major
Plus,
problem.
it's out of 4, not 5.
The major problems I have with time travel in general is because no matter where you are, the future would not have been written yet. But the minute you go to the future, you've got a past that you are that future. You've got a past. You can't just be willy-nilly all about time like that.
Well, and then it gets really relative, because to the people in that future right now, that is their present.
Yeah.
So the past before that is all set in stone and matters to them, but anything after that, to them, it also would be unwritten and wouldn't matter. And so every time, and this is a thing we're so flippant about with time travel and a lot of things, anytime you change anything, either going to the past or being in a future now that is set at the moment that you can change, that you just don't care about because it's not your future, you are messing with lives and potentially killing people because they're never going to exist when you go back and change stuff. So it's all very relative. Like, it works fine until you go there. You know what I mean? Like,
Wait a second.
from us right now, looking into the future, even if you were to time travel and you could go there and look at a future, if we knew for sure we could do that, it still hasn't been written, because anything we do, or at least it doesn't matter if it has, right? Because our choices, as far as we understand it, matter, right? But once you get there, it's also relative at that point.
So here, this is interesting. That means it based in actual reality, like the real world. That means that time is only relevant to the observer at any given point where that observer is. That's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really kind of fascinating. On my
Yeah, and
my
like
worldview
I
at
said,
the moment.
we're way too flippant about it in a lot of things.
Right.
When we say things like, well, why not go back in time and make things better if you can? It's like, well, because even if overall you can prevent a lot of people from dying that would have otherwise, or you can create better lives from people, what about children that won't be born because you did that, you know?
But
What
you
about
can also
relationships
assume at
that
that
don't
point-
happen that would have otherwise? Like,
Right.
that is such a playing God, super
That's
sticky
like
kind of...
Yeah, that's like on Quantum Leap, basically. Everything he does on that show is messing with the future. Not to mention the fact
But at that
that
point,
later on the show, the whole thing was, so when he would leap into their bodies, they were back like in his body or some crap like that in a waiting room.
Yes.
In the Quantum Leap place in
Yeah.
1999 or whatever. Wouldn't they remember all that stuff when they go back and like?
I thought they had some kind of loophole built in where their minds are wiped or something, but I don't remember.
So long, I don't remember. But it was,
And also,
it was weird.
they hardly ever deal with the mythology in that show. So there's like a big info dump at the beginning that gives you all that, and then
Right.
we don't really go back to it much. And there are a couple episodes here and there that do, but it's real rare.
Yeah.
But nobody cares about Quantum Leap anymore. Bakula's so much better in that show than he is in Enterprise. Like, do you think Bakula's a crappy actor? Like,
I don't know why Bakula's so bad at Enterprise. He just acts like a crazy person.
yeah.
I mean, people say Janeway was crazy, but he acts
No,
like
he's
real
an insane person. He like, Bakula had no idea how to play that, and he had really crappy material to work with a lot of the time. But like, I think he just wasn't given any direction, like of how to play that character. It was weird, because everything else I've ever seen him in, I like him.
Right.
But in that, he seems angry even in scenes where the character is not angry.
Anger management issues.
Yeah, nobody ever calls him on it. And then it just get like, when you watch when you watch it, Amir Darkly, you're like, Amir Archer's not acting any different than normal Archer.
Just a little, yeah.
Yeah, not enough, but you can't go very much farther because it was so over the top as it was. I'm gonna give this a 2.
Okay.
Also, this is a real midway. Well, 2 or 2.5. I don't know. It's real mid-range for me. Like I said, I enjoyed it more watching with you guys. I have a hard time taking it seriously because because again, I don't buy a lot of the time travel stuff in it for Star Trek. But I don't know. It's fun. It's like I said, it's a really good looking episode.
Yeah.
It's one of those episodes that's not a great story, but everything's like the dialogue's all pretty good. Except there's way too much Trek and babble. But like everybody's in character and stuff.
Right.
I don't know. Jason wants us to spin because he says, I like it when you spin.
Well, there's a real kid way to look at things.
I think we are going to wait on it until next time. That's where I'm leaning right now. Because somebody made the really good point of, but what if you spin a really bad episode? And then you got to dread it all week, and then next week you're going to have to put that in the title, and people won't show up. So no, I think we should just keep it open ended.
Yeah, they don't know. We don't know.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Yeah, Carpenter Street.
Yeah. Well, you didn't have to add Carpenter Street because somebody picked an episode, so you didn't have to do that.
But it will eventually.
That's my standard.
You guys really need to help us out and keep that from happening.
800 weeks of this, and we got it down.
So, see, yeah, I want to hope that at some point we get really sick of doing this before we get to Carpenter Street. Like,
how many weeks is 800 weeks? That's
how many weeks is it? It's 800 weeks.
I mean, how many years is it? How many years? It's 16 years.
Yeah. No, we'll never do everything. Which is why I'm not too concerned about mostly just putting like good episodes and stuff people really want to see on the wheel, because there's enough of it that it'll hold us out for a long time.
Before you say that, you did Trek Club for 15 years.
It's 16 years, but yeah, but keep in mind we are doing 2 episodes per.
Oh yeah, so it'd be half.
So it'd be half that. It'd be 8. Yeah, there is that.
It'd be just longer than the run of Next Gen itself.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And that's if we did one every single week. Now, I'm planning on trying to do this on a weekly basis, no matter who is here. I hope you guys can be here as much as possible, because I hate for you to miss good episodes. But I have some other folks that also want to come in and guest co-host. So if there's a week where I'm solo and nobody else can come in, I'll be able to find somebody. So I'm going to keep doing this on a weekly basis. There's enough Star Trek.
Right.
Enough Star Trek.
Is that okay with you guys?
Sure.
Cool.
And like you guys, I mean, everybody plan to be here as much as humanly possible. But if there's a week you can't make it, I think we can still keep the show going, if that's cool with everybody.
Yeah.
We'll play it like Star Trek Club. Like I never missed a meeting. I was there every time. I think I missed one meeting. Like I always held it. I was there every time. We don't talk about that.
What?
But.
It was the non-sanctioned.
Somebody on a standard replicator apparently picked as their thing Archer's Door.
But it wasn't a sanctioned meeting really, and you weren't there for it, so that happened.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Like that. Yeah, he was always like Archer's Door.
Well, anyway, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Hope you had a good time. This is going to be Star Trek Club. This is what we're going to be doing on Mondays. And I thought this worked out really well. It was super fun. Folks in the comments were saying how good of a time they had. And Adam, thanks for helping me kind of establish this and figure out what the format was going to be.
Definitely fun.
Well, thank you for running 15 years of Star Trek over the last 20.
I mean, I've missed it so much. I really want to come back and do this. Well, folks, we are going to come back again on Monday for you and do another one of these. Tomorrow night, DJ and I are going to do a mystery commentary on a movie that's not Star Trek. I can tell you for sure it's not a Star Trek movie. It's something else. So join us for that if you're so inclined, or you can watch it after the fact. And then we'll have a Captain Logan show on Thursday. Lots of fun stuff here on Geekvolution this week. And we will see you again next time. I was Captain Logan. This is Brandon Grimm.
Civilian Brandon.
And Adam Meredith.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. See you later.